Hi, and welcome to the July 2022 installment of Microsoft product licensing updates from the version 1 SAM team. Hi, everybody. How are you all doing today?
Hi,
Very
Carl.
good.
How are you?
Carl.
Good. Nice and hot and sunny where everybody is.
There is.
Sitting outside.
So this month we looked at Microsoft product terms as usual, as we do every month. Quite a lot of updates this month. Nothing material, I guess you could say, but still a whole raft of changes that might be applicable to some organizations. So let's do a quick round the room, albeit a virtual room, and see what everybody's picked up on. So Richard, tell us, what have you learned from the Microsoft product licensing term updates this month?
Yeah, so maybe there are three things I'd like to quickly point out. The first one is on the Microsoft Azure. Essentially, Microsoft added service-specific terms for Azure Orbital. They also updated the cognitive services and applied AI services service-specific terms. Specifically looking at the limited access service terms to accommodate a transition to a new process for managing access to and use of limited access AI services. Look, this is a long-winded way of saying customers may not use Azure Orbital services to receive signals from or transmit signals to a satellite space station without the authorization of its operators. Yeah, this is next level stuff. And then for the updated cognitive services and applied AI services, they've also added terms in relation to verification of compliance, re-verification of access, Microsoft's ability to determine eligibility, and if you're found ineligible, Microsoft will have to provide you 12 months notice before continuing your access. So it's more around what you're able to use the product for, who has access, what rights Microsoft have to audit you as well. So it's just an update in those terms, and it's important for maybe customers who are transmitting signals to satellite space stations to familiarize themselves with it. I don't think we'll have many of those. Maybe the other one would be the Microsoft Cloud for Nonprofit add-on. This is actually a shorter one, but maybe of more interest. They simply updated qualifying licenses to include academic plans, so such as your Office 365 A5 and E5 and Office 365 A3 and E3, as well as the M365 A3 E3 and Microsoft 365 A5 E5 licenses will now be considered qualifying licenses. And then the last one, I know I'm still in all the limelight here, is the SharePoint server. So Microsoft updated the SharePoint server use rights to include subscription licenses as a prerequisite for running or accessing SharePoint server subscription edition software. So as our customers may be aware, in November 2021, SharePoint Server Subscription Edition licenses began to include a perpetual entitlement to run SharePoint Server 2019 software only. So as part of this update, they've now included SharePoint Server Subscription Edition standard CALs as part of the base access licenses before customers can access or run SharePoint Server Subscription Editions. So just a few updates to what's there existing for SharePoint, nothing major, just including SharePoint Server Subscription Edition standard as part of the base licenses.
That's a couple of really funky ones there. So just goes to show you, even if you're on another planet or off planet, you need to
You're
be
still subject to Microsoft's terms and licenses.
not an excuse. So Neve, anything interesting from your side?
Yeah, I guess the ones that I kind of had a look at were all generally affecting kind of 365 or subscription licenses, and for the most part, they affect kind of offers or retired offers, like in the Microsoft Customer Agreement or CSP. But the first one anyway is Defender for Business, and that effectively that's been added to the Microsoft 365 kind of offers. And look, it's essentially Microsoft's endpoint protection and kind of threat intelligence for devices, but it's for organizations with less than kind of 300 employees, in line with like the other kind of naming conventions, or the family of offers for organizations with less than 300 users or employees. The other one then was audio services, where they've said that they've removed business voice, and that of course was the Teams offer. And again, business, that meant it was an offer for organizations with less than 300 employees or users, which at first I was kind of going, oh, that's probably now replaced by Teams phone system, but that's actually gone, and now there's like Teams phone standard, or Teams phone standard with calling plans. So yeah, it's kind of hard to keep up. But look, effectively, business voice is gone, and so the new kind of show in town is Teams phone standard, and so on. Then the next one was kind of interesting, because like there's just so much going on in Microsoft, where like they said this for kind of in 365, that they've updated AI builder credits for SharePoint syntax. Now, first I was kind of going, what's SharePoint syntax? And I found like, it's a user subscription license, as part of 365. And I mean, the AI builder kind of like, tells you it's something to do with kind of Power Automate. And so basically that's where, you can use integration with AI builder and Power Automate to kind of build kind of processing models, from SharePoint, from document libraries and so on, to automate the processing of forms. So what Microsoft said that they were doing anyway, in terms of SharePoint syntax and AI builder credits, is that they were, instead of like offering, or giving 1 million credits for AI builder with 300 plus of these SharePoint syntax user licenses, that now they're kind of like, they're changing that to 3.5k or 3,500 credits per license. So obviously the nosy part of me had a look to see, well, what does that actually mean? And it means that when you look at the previous offer, 1 million credits with 300 plus SharePoint syntax licenses, if you had the 300, you got 10,000 credits for AI Builder. And so obviously with the 3.5k, 3,500, that's reduced that significantly. And then I suppose finally as well, Dynamics 365, they've updated the purchasing minimums for academic, and kind of in line with what you see with commercial, the purchasing minimums for academic, it's like 20 of the base licenses, the usual suspects, the enterprise and sales and so on, sales enterprise and customer service enterprise. And then the other part of like what they've done is that they've just clarified that Dynamics Business Central offers dual use rights. So if you have 365 licenses for Business Central and the Business Central kind of family of products, that you get, on-prem use rights as part of your 365 license. And that, again, it's Business Central, it's for kind of only available through the Microsoft Customer Agreement, or CSP. So that's kind of pretty much it, just updates and clarifications. And, the big one, I suppose, really is like the change to the SharePoint syntax and the AI builder credits.
Yeah, so definitely some interesting ones there. From my side, I took a look at GitHub. It's not something that I've looked at for quite some time, but I think the only key announcement here was just around how Microsoft are no longer making available the GitHub Learning Lab, I think it's called, or GitHub Learning Lab for organizations. So I think from the 1st of September 22, that lab availability is going to shut down. What Microsoft are now informing organizations to look at is, if you're looking to increase your skills around GitHub, if you're a first-time user of GitHub or an advanced user of GitHub, they're now pushing you towards this GitHub Skills Hub, where you're provided with like a whole wide variety of different learning resources there. Also then in the product terms, there's reference to links on GitHub around how and when and where you can use enterprise software from GitHub or online services from GitHub for preview purposes, for demo purposes, training and evaluation purposes. So not a huge amount there for someone like me who doesn't use GitHub on a regular basis. But if you do use GitHub, you know, the retirement of that GitHub Learning Lab is obviously probably something that you will have frequently enough used at some point in time. So, but fear not, there's an additional or a new resource available there to potentially meet your needs. The other one I looked at is Windows Auto Patch, which is an interesting new product offering from Microsoft that I believe went general availability, I think on the 11th of July, which is just only a few days ago, right? So this one is kind of fresh off the press. So Windows Auto Patch, it provides automated updating for Windows 10, 11. I believe it also adds capabilities for Windows updating for Microsoft Edge, update capabilities for Microsoft 365 software as well. So as you can guess, with a new product, and the product's been in preview for some time, but now we're seeing it kind of flush through into the product terms. So there's some specific terms around the use of this online service. Things like references the definition of what Microsoft call a professional service, because there is a professional services element to this, and because of that professional services element, there's obviously some data handling that will take place. So Microsoft provide guidance in terms of what data handling criteria associated with this particular online service, which is Windows Auto Patch. So apart from that, I didn't read up on anything else. I suppose one area that has drawn my attention somewhat is this cancellation policy piece that we see referenced in the product terms, which I think will have a potential knock-on for customers and how they potentially need to manage their relationship with partners so that they're staying on top of the operational side of things when it comes to particularly around, I think, CSP agreements in particular. So William, I know that's a subject that you could spend quite a lot of time on, right? So
it's a subject that's close to my heart.
Yeah.
So this is almost a repeat of an announcement they made a couple of months ago, and I can't actually see any specific changes in the wording or terminology, but I think what they're trying to do is just reinforce the point over what they call a program agreement supplemental terms for Microsoft customer agreement. So basically the cancellation term on a CSP contract. And I think it will need ironing out. It will need defining and clarifying better, I think, over time. But essentially, the things we do know is that online services with auto renewal will automatically renew by the nature of the statement the day after their subscription term expires. So if you have an expiry date of 31st of December, for example, and it's on auto renewal, then 1st of January the new contract will kick in. So that everyone knows that's fine. If the customer chooses not to auto renew, that they can opt out of that, or they can ask their partner to tick the box to say don't auto renew, which again everyone knows about as well. So but the nuance is the term now includes a statement, quotation marks, at least 30 days before the subscription expires by updating the auto renewal setting in the admin center or by contacting their reseller. So this is essentially saying the automatic renewal will come forward 30 days before the expiry date. So an expiry date no longer is an expiry date, it's 30 days before that. So it's something that customers really need to be on top of, like Carl was saying. It should be anyway, but you've got to bring it forward 30 days to make sure that you're not tied in or that happy with the numbers and the product titles that people are subscribing to. There's also another update to the terms, which is a cooling off period of 168 hours from the date of order, from the time of order. But this is only for new subscription titles within a CSP agreement. So where I said about the 30-day notice period being brought forward, that doesn't count to this. This is purely for new subscriptions. So it is that sort of 7 days calling off period where a customer can cancel without penalty any new subscriptions within that 7-day period and not be held accountable or liable for those for the next 12 months. But I think the first point does need it. I think it will be clarified and defined better over time. But it just seems a strange slight addition to what seemed like quite a normal process of not auto renewing and knowing when your expiry date is.
Any reason why they would be doing this?
No, and that's I can understand. You know, if you don't if you have auto renew switched on, then fair enough. That's that's ease of management, isn't it? Ease of administration. You just let it run. But the 30-day prior to that, I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
There's nothing on it at the moment. Whether it's just some quirk of the product terms and the two, it's been written by two different departments, put into the same document.
Well then, yeah.
So I think there's bound to be partners will be kicking back and asking Microsoft about this, as will we. So I think we'll just have to see what the outcome is and the clarification is on that.
I think if anything, it points to the importance of being vigilant around key dates in your contract with not just Microsoft but with your reseller. I think the risk is that a lot of orgs will potentially just roll over on an agreement because nobody's done the proper housekeeping, or there's just a recurring payment of sorts there. Nobody's questioning
and I think the problem will go back to the partners, I think, almost, because there'll be an overarching master service agreement because the partner owns a relationship with the customer, not with Microsoft. So I think that it's almost it's the partner's vigilance that needs to otherwise the partners would be held liable. I think if it differs to the terms of their own contract, so, but like Carl says, it's about knowing exactly what the score is in advance and being completely on top of it.
Yeah, like I suppose it all comes back to regular monitoring of your cloud consumption, spend, utilization. At a minimum quarterly. You may need something a little bit more frequent than that. By having that inside over the 12-month period, then you can start to see where waste redundancy is kind of either being managed out as opposed to waiting until the end of the year and seeing where it accumulates and trying to manage it out. But a lot of orgs are not putting that practice in place, and there's
may not know when the dates are even.
Then you're just rolling over into the next year or the next year. So it's almost like you kind of have to treat this like if you were in an enterprise agreement in the past, you've opted out and gone into the CSP model. You kind of have to apply kind of similar fundamentals around managing the life cycle so that your annualized billing is being tracked and managed correctly. So you're avoiding any big surprises at the end of the year, or equally that you're not just rolling over on the spend for the sake of it. So I think
I completely agree. I was just going to say on that, from no customer, regardless of any sort of contract, should be leaving it for 30 days before reviewing and then getting caught out with this clause.
So I think that concludes all the updates from this month's Microsoft product licensing terms updates. As usual, we push this out in the blog, so please feel free to read the blog. It's on my Medium account with contributions from everybody here on the team. If you've got any Microsoft licensing related questions or any software licensing related questions in general, do feel free to reach out to the SAM practice and version 1. We'd be delighted to help solve those. So until next week, see you then.
Bye.